Hey folks, this is Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop. So I want to start off today by saying thank you to everyone who supports us over at Patreon. We really do appreciate it. And a special thank you to everyone who's gone to our website, themidwestmodelshop.com, and made a purchase of some sort. Everything that we're designing over there, outside of like t-shirts and mugs and things like that, is meant to make model building easier for you. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and take a look right now. All right, so in today's episode of the Enterprise CV-6, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I've bitten off more than I can chew. And what I mean by that is in the very first segment of the build, I'm going to explain that I plan to put together both the forward section of the port and starboard side of what remains of the hangar deck. There's way more photo etch on the starboard side than I anticipated. Also, life got crazy and it was super busy, and it made it difficult to come down here and put these little segments together. So instead of just waiting forever to have the other part, we're just going to go ahead and wrap up almost all of the major construction on the starboard side of the ship. There's still some little tidying up to do that I have to figure out, but you know, the main parts are on, and that's really important as far as being able to move on and move up. In the following episode, we'll wrap up. In the next episode, we'll wrap up the port side with the main structures, and then we can dial in all kind of the little details that go along there, and then plan on moving forward from there. All right, thanks again for everyone who likes and subscribes. Really do appreciate it. Let's get into the build. All right, folks, here we are back in action with lots of Pontos paperwork and stuff out. So, continue on from the last episode. I said I was going to go ahead and put together the last major parts of the superstructure, or sorry, not the superstructure, just the hull sides on the hangar deck. And we have these two lengths of section left on the forward hull. This is the starboard side, and then we have the port side. So what we're going to do is go ahead and prep these parts. So this whole page of Pontos instructions, just about all of this, all the way up through to here basically, is just prepping this one piece to be installed. On the port side, we'll get to that as well, you have a very similar shaped structure, but then you also have this big piece that goes on the inside. And I got to check, where does it go? If it goes like this, right, which it kind of implies that it does, then we can leave the doors open, there's something to see. But if it somehow goes the other way or is shifted forward and blocks these doors off, that'll be kind of boring because I'm just going to end up leaving the doors closed. I don't want to make the same mistake I made on the port side earlier where I had doors open and then put a wall up right behind it that I wasn't aware of. Anyway, we'll start off over here on the starboard side. So this step one, real exciting, is see all the purple? Yeah, that means it needs to be smooth. And then we start putting on these big sheets of brass. So we got to go ahead and clear all of this stuff off. And this time around, I've verified that the brass pieces that are required actually exist and are in my possession before I eliminate nice detail that the kit has, only to have to put it back on. So I'm going to go ahead and get through those steps. You guys know how the brass goes on. We'll put some B-roll up maybe, and then we'll come back to it when we have this big huge thing that hopefully looks like this, except they only open a couple doors. I want my doors mostly open for this version of the ship that we're throwing together. All right, we'll do that. Press it on. All right, fancy schmancy, we've got some brass going here, but we've come to our first point of let's pay attention here type of thing. So this plastic piece, the kit part, I had pre-fit quite a bit. You may have seen the last video. I made sure that this edge right here, I know it's gray and gray, but this edge exactly fit the other kit part, and that we had a good fit up in the front. This little funny V-shaped piece is going to require some filler and work. Can't do much about that with this piece right here loose, but we make sure that this end fits in and that we're good to go. That being said, when we get to this big honking piece and it drops in, fits very nicely. Over here at this edge, you slide it all the way down, You have the nice door openings, you're good to go. You come over here, and then right here, it overlaps. See that? It's sticking out past the edge. So right away I was like, uh-oh, that's no good. And easy, I could just cut this off with a bit of shears and you're good to go. But before I did that, I took this up to the ship and plopped it on there to see what is happening. So other than us having basically this little channel right here that we'll have to contend with sliding it down into place, this little overhang overlaps the seam in the photo etch that is currently in place. I don't think it's going to cause a problem. I think it will be just fine. So I'm going to leave it. I just wanted to share that. Now, if down the road I realized later here when I put in that that was a huge mistake and I got to hack it off, then those of you will know at this point, that this little part extending out should be cut off and gotten rid of. But that's just a point of note. We will address that with the final fit later to see how it goes. But otherwise, we're cracking along here nicely. So if we run anything else, I'll stop and let you know. But let's get this brass on. Okay, it has been quite some time, but we've got the bulk of our photo etch installed. Couple of quick comments. If you look right here, you'll see a piece of white styrene. For those of you building this, the little deck up here ended up, for some reason, not fitting all the way back, and there was a gap, and so I put that piece of styrene in there just to reinforce it. This deck that goes in right up here on top, it has slots in the back that correspond with these openings. They fit fine when you just have one piece in, but when you sandwich the two top and bottom pieces together, they don't. So I ended up just cutting them off because that worked better. And that's basically it. Lastly, you can see right here we've got 3 posts in place for our stanchions here for the doors. And yeah, let's go ahead and test fit this. Alright, so we have this little piece of overlapping photo etch that's got to stay on the front of this that we talked about earlier. So we'll go here and here, and then this is going to have to go down like that. There we go. A little bit fiddly, but I want everyone to see what's involved. Okay. And that's it. Drops in, fits nicely. We have some gaps up here, right in this spot. We'll sort out this detail later, either because we're flush up on top right above here. So I'll either shim this little edge up and fill it, or yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll put some filler in here. This can come down just a tiny little bit and up. It's important that, like I said before, that we get all these areas flush as much as we can. But otherwise, everything checks out. I think I have one door right there I need to put on, or hatch. And then I put in a ladder up on top here. Another ladder goes from this platform down. And then I believe we have one more over here. It just makes sense to wait until you have this on the ship before installing that. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and paint this up, and then we'll come back and wrap up those little details. There's also an optional, it's an option to put, if you have these doors open, you could put a fence, there's some railings here along here. I guess keep people from running out and coming down. I haven't really decided if I want to do that. I don't have it anywhere else. I guess it does make sense to put it here because these doors open, you're right at the edge, versus back here on the aft end of the ship there's a deck out there that you could walk on, you know, before you fell into the ocean. So it just all kind of depends on what you want to do. But anyway, this was a ton of PE. This piece is actually really heavy. It looks nice, but let's go ahead. That's it. Like I said, it all went together nicely. There's nothing, no real gotchas on it. You just got to take your time. So let's go ahead now, and I'll get this painted up, and we'll go ahead and stick it on. Alright, so we have our blue paint on, first coat's good. We have to go ahead and get our deck blue in up here. That I'll do with the brush later, but I flipped it over and I was like, okay, what's going on back here? So there were a bunch of sinkhole marks right in here that I just scraped off with like this with a curved blade, and then there were these. They're actually recessed. I don't know if you can make those out, and I was like, oh man, what do we got to do? And then I realized, looking at the instructions, that we're actually supposed to put this piece in right here, and that will go ahead and take care of that problem on the inside, and then we could go ahead and paint all of this white. So we're going to go ahead and do that before we finish up painting everything else that we've got going on here. So we'll just slather some paint on like that, and then I think we need this edge right here, and we should be good to go moving forward. And I'll slap some paint down here as well. Alright. And these grooves are important because they are what are, we got some pieces that go in there for the hangar, the ceiling of the hangar, you know, that go back and forth, they'll hold the main deck up. So that's it. We'll get that on, and then we'll get some paint applied. And then there's some photo etch parts that go in here on the inside, some ladders and things like that to get you to these other decks. We'll sort that stuff out. Like, I'm curious about these hatches right here, because I didn't see anything about putting in like a railing or a deck here or something like that. So I'll take another look at that, because it's a little rough, because I'm digging through the Pontos instructions, which are, you know, they're better on this kit than in other ones, but they're still just so-so. And then I'm rifling through the kit instructions trying to make heads or tails of what's going on there too. So we'll hold this down, and then we'll get some paint going here. Alright, we are back after a very long period of time, not for you in YouTube land, but for me in real life. So what I want to do is wrap up this kind of area as best as I can here, because I have to go to work, and then there will be a big delay before I can do more. I put the photo etch kit parts, or the Pontos parts, in here. I got to paint those up real quick because I won't be able to get the backside done after we install this huge bulkhead assembly area. On the other side, you'll notice these are the bits. Hey, on the other side here, way back here, you can see that there's only one. I actually am short one. Now, I feel like previously somewhere else in the build I was short one, and I scratch built one. So I'm going to have to scratch build this piece over here. I was kind of irritated about that, and then I thought about trying to dig up the kit part, and I'm like, I'll just scratch build this. Who really cares right there that it's missing, right? So anyway, we're going to paint this up, we're going to drop this in, and we're going to get some of the details done. I don't know that I'll be able to actually accomplish everything I want today and still get the video edited up, but there is kind of an order of operations here next that's important to simplify things. So let me paint this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this big thing, right, that we previously painted up, and there is a photo etch kit part ladder that I found that goes in here. I guess these hatches you could just jump out of and fall onto the deck, but there's a little set of ladders for back here. We'll dig that out and put them in, but there's a way to put this in that is kind of, you know, smart. So let me paint this. We'll be right back. Alright, so we've returned. My paint is wet down here, and I want to go ahead now and install this big bulkhead that we've been monkeying with this whole time. So no glue has been applied, none, and this fits fairly snug. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and begin, and it fits kind of tight up here, to slide it down into position like this. And now the trick is going to be up here in the front where I have these little posts I've created. I want to ensure that when I push this down the rest of the way, and I think I need to come up on the back, here we go, that I'm going to get seated, whoop, there we go, on each one of these things. This one's the high one. There we are. Okay, so now okay, there we go. So we're not down all of the way, but we're close, right? Which means at this point I can go ahead and flood a lot of these little areas with glue and then seat it the rest of the way, which is what we want to do. All right, so I'm just going to go to the kind of the obvious spots and drop some of our Tamiya Super Duper Thin into place. Our tabs down there. All right, and then this is largely photo etch, but up here we got a lot of plastic. And then we've got, yeah, this edge back up in here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and just seat it the rest of the way down. Like that. Alright, now, so what I'm looking for is, and it's a little high, the tiniest bit, I want this edge to be flush with this edge, and there's a little, it's up just the tiniest bit. Hopefully, there we go. If I push hard, it goes down. Then a margin of error here. Up in the front, now, we'll pan over here, I'm having a little bit more trouble. It's really close. So, this surface right here is already in place, and right next to it is the kit part we just dropped in. They're very close. Obviously, we have a height discrepancy here, and then this other one that's always been here, focus please, is this spot. This has always been higher than this edge. I'm not sure what's going on there. What I may end up doing though, whoops, is just getting a piece of styrene and laying it on this surface so that these two points on the deck there are nice and flush. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this. So now all we have to do is add in some of our other detail, which I want to try and dig up. We have the remaining railing that comes along across here and ends at a certain point. And yeah, so, and we've got some detail we need to stick in here next. Real quick though, while I'm at it, I was looking at this area. Remember we installed this giant huge piece last time? And I was eyeballing it from a distance and I was like, hey, what's going on there? I was looking at this surface right here. If I take a straight edge and I lay it down flat, I don't know, can you see this? There's a gap. And if I put it on the other edge and I lay it down flat, like this, there's another gap. This thing is arced. It curves just the tiniest bit from the middle. I don't know why, but now that I'm aware of it and you're aware of it, this may affect the way the deck fits. And my solution is going to be to sand down a little bit of this area. I'll probably plane it off. We'll just bring this hump out of it and it'll come down. I'm not really sure why we have that, but those little observations can be critical into explaining fit difficulties that we have later on. Okay, so let's get in here and install some of our other little parts. All right, we have this ladder. It goes in right there, like that. And I'm just going to leave it. I think that'll work out okay. And then we have this photo etch post, and there's a little nip right up there where it secures into. So I'm going to preload the top of this with just a little bit of CA glue. Anchor it in there and then push it in right here. And it's got to come forward a little bit. You want to try and get it straight up and down. And there's a piece right behind it that will help you kind of reference that. We're going to call that good. Obviously, I have to touch it up. Just made little nicks in it, but that's pretty darn good right there. We could come forward a tiny bit. Yeah. That'll work. That'll work. Sorry if that was out of focus. This is what we're working on, and I'll touch that up. All right, and then I have a bit, this little guy right here. I can't remember where. I gotta look at the instructions. It gets installed somewhere along the edge over here. I may have to put the railing in first. So now that this post that I just put in place I'm happy with, I'll dab a little CA glue just kind of around the edge just to kind of anchor the bottom. It's pressure fit in there pretty well. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and then we'll touch that up. All right. Okay, we've returned. Some painting has been done and some assembly. This is the next big chunk of rail. I put the accommodation ladder on it. It's stowed because we're not actually going to accommodate anybody, and it needs to be attached. And I've kind of covered this before in the previous episode, but what I've got here is some CA glue and my tape ready to go. And what I'm going to do here is just apply a very thin little stretch of CA glue kind of in all the main spots, right? And what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and very carefully place the railing up here, and I'm going to have some tape on it to hold it in position. And then we'll go ahead and just this Tamiya 1/4 inch stuff. You'll see what I'm doing here. I'm going to tape it to the railing, and we'll follow up with some additional CA glue to help hold things in place. So start over here, and I'm going to set it on this edge. I'm going to butt it up right like yay. Stick it on. I'll swing down here, and this is, be careful here. Set this up on the edge and use this piece of tape to get this end in position the way we want. And then now I can make tiny little adjustments to where the rest of this is at and make sure that it touches and that it sets up. And then we can go ahead and apply just a little more glue along this edge so that it's good. All right, we've got our glue applied, and obviously some things need to be touched up, but we're good to go. So now we could start putting on some of these little bits. I'll put some CA glue here that I like to do that fit in with the Pontos railing. This is one of the kit little bits, and I see some touch up that needs to happen, but waiting until the railing's in place allows us to get it to fit nicely with the way the railing's shaped. And now I think that that's got a little lip, and I should turn it around. Maybe. No, maybe not. Anyway, so that's the idea. Wait till your railing's installed, and then you can put this into position. There we go. And then your railing bumps up to it real nicely, just the way that you want. Now, sliding down here, we're looking at the, this is a resin part, deal shaped like this. It's going to require some touch up. This is also part of the Pontos, not a kit part, and it sneaks in right under here. So I'm just going to dollop some CA glue up in this area. I really am having a hard time seeing what I'm doing, but that's okay. I'm going to drop this down behind it and try to scoot it into position. Like that. That's going to work. That'll be okay. Whoop, tipped over on me. There we go. Okay, and then we got one more that goes in right here. This is more of a, it's another kit part. We'll drop our CA glue right there in a big pile. Grab our piece. And try and smooth it on in here. Okay. There we go. That's good. It's a little high on the right, but it's going to be just fine. All right. So that's basically it. Oh, no. It is not basically it. We have this guy. I think it hooks on right here. Let me check that in the instructions. Okay, I was incorrect. It actually goes right here in between this bit and the post. So let me pop it off. This I'm going to have to touch up after the fact. Get a hold of it with my tweezers. Alright, and then it has little hooks on the back. I'm literally going to try and hook it on there. Oh goodness. Try like that. There we go. Now we're talking. It needs a little bit of glue right on the bottom here. So it can connect to the railing. We're set. Okay, good. Now, there is optional railing that runs right along here, and I think I'm going to put it in. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I've got a couple little things to tidy up, and then there's this whole area down here. I'm not quite sure what's going on yet. We got to get to that and tidy it up. But generally speaking, this is it. And this is what I'm going to do for this episode, because like I said, things got really out of hand with taking a lot longer than I thought they were going to. But starboard side is coming along nicely now. And I like a lot of this little bit of extra detail that we've got going on. And then up on top here, you know, this area is where your Oerlikon cannons are going to go. Pontos makes great kit Oerlikon cannons. They're just a lot of photo etch work. And then obviously there's the default kit parts, but we're not going to do any of that because that's just a pain in the rear. You've got these ready to go. If you don't know, from the MidwestModelShop.com, our website, these are printed, 3D printed Oerlikon cannons. They've got all the little detail on them. I'll spin it around the wrong way right there, but you know, all I gotta do is paint it up and drop it into place and we're good to go. And we'll put a bunch of those on here in the same spots. They'll go like that, and it's gonna look awesome. So that's it, folks. Thank you for your patience, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This was a lot of fun, and on the next episode, what we're gonna do, I mean, I'm gonna tidy up a bunch of these little details over here, but we've got this big hole right here that needs to get filled in. So that's what we will do next. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.